to advance the world, both on the scientific side and social and political side. And when we look at the modern world, we just simply recognize that the free world, free part of the world, is responsible for almost everything that is happening. But lack of this confidence, made a lot of people, especially young people, to believe that, oh, but look at China, look at Russia, look at so we're no longer dominant. We're no longer, having an edge. No, history tells us that freedom, individual freedom, is the absolute essential component of successful innovations. And yeah, we may have doubts about it, but when you just start looking, just deep down, you still understand that it's everything that we use now somehow has roots to the invention of a free world, of free people, free nations.
I want to take a step back, if you don't mind, and go to you learning to play chess. I want to come back to the questions that we were just discussing, but I want to sort of try to get to them more systematically. So I kind of would love for you to reflect on how you started to play chess, learn chess, and how you gradually began to sort of do the analysis that you do in your notebooks, where you analyzed older chess games. Can you sort of can you talk me through that?
Oh, it was a very primitive process by modern standards. Even my kids, when they look at these old notebooks, they just could hardly believe. I mean, you did it, Daddy? So this is all these notes, because we had. I was born and raised in the Soviet Union, so the access to information was very limited. So it's some of the books I could borrow and just I had just to record what's there, so just to analyze later. Even had to do some some printouts, so just to have diagrams.
Yeah.
And I was very, very proud. So very, very. Just I got a gift from my Moscow coach, who had access to some goods that were available.
When did you start playing chess?
Nobody was there to tweet about it, so that's why I can follow the family tales. It's probably it was one of the winter evenings, 68 to 69, in Baku, in our just a small apartment. Actually, it's not our apartment. We shared the apartment with just another family, so we had one big room and just in the kitchen. So that's what I say. And I watched my parents, my mother and father, just trying to solve a puzzle from a local newspaper, because chess puzzles were commonplace in many newspapers, even in America or in Europe. And again, I don't recall exactly, so I have to rely on my mother's recollections, that I just watched them very, very intensely, and I figured out how to make moves, what were the rules, and I even made a suggestion. Whether it was a good one or not, just God knows. So she said I solved the problem. Probably, again, I don't know. But I just immediately, felt mesmerized by this small wooden board with some pieces, and very quickly I got fully just absorbed by these ideas, and again, probably pure luck that I found something that perfectly was a perfect fit for my mind, and I just started learning about the game, and from age 7 I was sent to the chess club. It was like a chess section of the Pioneer Palace, and very quickly, I was recognized as a child prodigy, and but still, I had very little information to work with. So until I got just at age 10, I was a candidate master and played for Azerbaijan team, and I was discovered by called headhunters in Moscow. So they looked for, and one of them, Alexander Nikitin, became from the Central Chess Club in Moscow, became my coach, and And that's, as I mentioned, and as one of his gifts was to send me there was a little set made in East Germany. So with a special stamp, you could put a chessboard. It was green, and then you had this is you can print pieces. So this is the red and black. So this is. So I had to basically recreate some books. So this is how it worked, and it's interesting because again, when you show this kind of work, which has been preserved thanks to my mother, to my kids, they think it was a total waste of time. Which again, by modern standard, yes, because now you can just swipe your finger just on the screen and everything is there. But on the other hand, it was a hard job that's it's strengthened us. So I was not alien to the idea of working hard, just doing just something that is, again, back to the zombie jobs. It's irrelevant now, but the character. So that has been grown out of this meticulous and by the modern standards irrelevant work. So helped me to meet many challenges later on.
So on the one hand, I totally understand that now we have whatever, Stockfish, Commodore, Houdini, and so on, and everybody can easily.
I'm not even talking about this is the chess engines. I'm talking about collecting data. You simply you push the button and and you see everything that is, and it's not just the number of games. You can know exactly this is what is the result if white pawn was here. This is all the statistics. So everything can be just in front of you. Okay, depends how fast you are just operating the machine, but within a couple of minutes,
so basically
you can have the data that would probably take months to collect and to systematize, and still, you would not come even close to the order and the quality of the presentation that's available today.
Yes. So what I'm trying to get at roughly is it's a story you tell several times, or you told several times, and then is in some of your books is you sometimes now go to chess camps and you meet young people, and you
actually not sometimes regularly,
and then it can happen that you say to a child or a young person, this was a really great move. What led you to do that move? And so, well, I don't know. I learned this from my computer. And so what I'm curious about is basically how this, including the assembling of the data, the aggregating it, the working through, the getting protocols of older games, and how the game unfolded, and you entering those protocols and thinking about them in order to find variations, to find possibilities that were maybe in the game but were not played at the time. So I'm sort of really deeply interested in this thinking as a practice, as a way of orienting in the chess game.
I do these sessions regularly, through Kasparov Chess Foundation. So we started here in 2005 under the umbrella of our foundation, the Young Star program, and I can say that every American grandmaster under 35, at one point was our student.
Awesome.
So I think in America, I think about 21 or 22 grandmasters that came through the academy routine, and we have a group of coaches that just being sent just to help our selected students. When we're talking about students, they are very they're already professionals, young professionals. So we're talking about this master strengths, and often now we just have some of them who already made a grandmaster norm. So it's very high level. It's not just just kids.
Yes.
I meet them twice a year, so just to look at the progress and just to offer some more advice. So it's typically it's in New York in December and St. Louis, Missouri in June. Now, what I found out is that very often when we do analysis, because typically the session is, we sit in the room, it's about 6, 7 kids, myself and my associate, and they show their games, of course, on the computer. So this is, somebody sits with the computer, I also have a computer, we have a screen, big screen, we look at the game, and we go through the games, they prepare commentaries, so just, I ask just to understand how they think about it, and very often we bumped into the same problem as you described. So it's we look at a certain position, and our students, he or she, making comments saying, this is a good move, this is not a good move. And I typically ask, okay, why it's not a good move? Show the line, because the machine goes, I said, fine, slow down. I also could see the line because I also have a computer. So can you explain to me in your own words why, this is why this line is not good?
Mm-hmm.
And very often, it's almost exclusively, we bumped into the same, it's kind of paralysis. It's just staring at you. What do you mean, why? Because machine says so. This is, I think they learn now that I wanted to get more out of them, but still it's somehow when that's your advantage, technological advantage, becomes a curse. And I always tell people that Magnus Carlsen's dominance in the world of chess was very much due to his ability to separate his mind from the screen. Even the strongest players, I work with several of them, so they couldn't take their eyes away from the screen. Magnus, when I worked with him, I worked for a year, so he could actually look at the computer as it's not calculator, but something that he wanted to look at to prove his
thinking,
his assumptions.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest challenge, because it's whether it's chess, whether it's science, whether it's business. I think the greatest challenge now is that our eyes are stuck on the screen, because we know that in 95, 96, 97% of cases, machine actually knows better. But the question is, you still have to make a decision, and the most delicate moment is at what point you stop looking at the screen and start making your own decision.
For me, this is, as you put it, this is not just in chess, this is in the world at large. Yeah. And one of the things that I find deeply fascinating about your trajectory, your career, the way I understand from afar your life, is you learned to play chess, you became a grandmaster very young.
I go, by the way, young by modern standards. I was officially awarded the title at 17.
Yeah.
Now we're grandmasters just under 13.
Yeah.
Though, of course, when I became I became official grandmaster at 17, I was already top 10 player in the world.
Yeah. And so, the shortcut to this is, I think of your notebooks as a philosophical laboratory. And what I mean by that is, you study these older, I'm especially fascinated also by your 2003 books, about let me say, prior chess champions and how they played the game.
My great predecessors.
Yes, your great predecessors, and how I'm doing the history of thought, right? So I studied old languages, and I look at how does a verb become a noun, how does a noun become a category, and I try to understand how does the logical system that underlies a language change, and thereby possibilities for thinking seem to change a little bit. And when I worked through my great predecessors, I could see you doing this with chess.
Yeah, because the idea was to actually look at the development of the game of chess through the lenses of the greatest players.
But you did not only do that, you reconstructed, if you will, the evolution of the thought space, but you also discovered in those older games possibilities not taken.
Yeah, well, look, again, I tried to be as scientific as I could be, so thanks to my great teacher, one of my great predecessors, Mikhail Botvinnik. So I believe chess has a huge component of science, which was typically undermined because it's sport and art, but science is there, and I try to apply this scientific concept to see the development of the game. So
Yes.
this is how it started and how new concepts, gradually conquered more space, and
Yes.
and how they just, the new ideas, became parts of the winning strategies
Yeah.
for great champions.
So I draw a lot of parallels between how I'm working and how I read your work, and that is, so if I know the logical assumptions that are built in a language, or if I don't know them, makes a huge difference. Why? Well, if I don't know them, I do things without thinking much about them. If I do know them, I can reflect on, does that make sense? Do I want to do this? And suddenly there is a space of possibility, let me call this freedom. And the bigger that freedom is, the bigger my autonomy is, the bigger my capacity to make decisions is. So one of the things I love from one of the conversations I listened to in preparation for this was, you describe in one conversation, it may have been with Lex Friedman, where you describe the joy of finding a new possibility in a game, as if a world opens up in that moment. And that means, if I push this sort of poetically hard, this world opens up and nobody has been there before you discovered it.
But it's a process of discovery. So
Yes.
As I said, chess still has the scientific component, and science means you can always, polish your methods of discovering new ideas.
Yeah.
And I was always, in this quest. So since I learned from my mother that it was not just about winning. Of course, winning was the biggest priority, but still not just winning, but also making a difference. So that's why I always competed against my own excellence. So I knew that the ideas that helped to win the game or a competition or when they become world champion, they may not be good enough next day, because everybody studies you, and there's only one or very few winners and many losers. Many of those who are behind, they will study you, and unless you can come up with new ideas ahead of them, so they'll just they'll find they'll find flaws in your methods.
Yes.
So for me, just being on top was the never-ending process of improvement.
Yeah.
And I think I did it well, and for just very long time I could resist the. It's a temptation of complacency, because when we win, we always believe that it's because of our greatness.
Yeah.
You can just celebrate opening champagne bottle and just forget about your opposition, but they are studying you. And one thing I know, and that's what I think is this. I emphasized at many instances, and of course in the books that you mentioned, is that there was no such a thing as perfect game. Any game that in the games we're most proud of, they always have elements of not mistakes necessarily, but some inconsistencies, inaccuracies, and typically your victory is a result of opponent making a last mistake.
Yes.
But unless you recognize this, and unless you just spend too much time celebrating and not enough time on studying, so you may run a risk, a serious risk, that very soon all these inaccuracies will be discovered, and the next day you'll face an opponent that will be well armed, well versed to actually exploit your weak spots that
True,
he or she could find through the process.
So let me make a distinction. I don't know if it applies to chess, but I think it does. So when I was studying philosophy, I had a professor who said there are many people who are better at thinking than me, many, but the number of people who are better at thinking about thinking to discover the logical assumptions that thinking makes in order to break free from them and go to places where nobody has been, there are not so many. And I think that applies to chess too. There are people like you who practice what is for me the highest form of thinking, and to some degree I always think that that's one of the highest human distinctions. thinking about thinking in order to discover new possibilities and steadily grow this. And grow this partly because of winning, but I assume that this also is true for you. When you find a new possibility, the intoxication of that moment, the sort of pure joy of having made that, it's as if you step in the open. This is an extraordinary experience. And most of the other people who will play chess will study your moves to repeat them, but they will not study thinking about thinking to discover. I mean, there are other people. Topolov might have been somebody like that, for example. But yeah.
No, yes, I couldn't agree more. It's about understanding the process of thinking. And
Yes.
when I wrote my first non-chess book, How Life Imitates Chess, I concentrated on presenting applications of my chess experience to analyze the decision-making process.
Yes.
It's not that chess, could help you to navigate in life. So I always say that the aptitude for playing chess is nothing else than aptitude for playing chess. And I don't share the beliefs of great scientists that chess could offer you some unique insight into the human mind.
Yeah.
But if you know how to employ your chess skills to understand the process of making decisions, then then you can start looking at the decision as a scientific formula, and that's what I try to also to divide, just to separate in the book when I talked about material, time, quality, and trying to find very general formulas
Yes.
of decision making that could apply to chess, to politics, to business, to war, to ordinary lives.
Yeah. I want to push the poetic one step further, and that is so making decisions, making choices. This is such a deceptively simple phrase. I made a decision, I do this rather than that. But when you link this to thinking about thinking, then having a choice is actually an extraordinary freedom. It means that there is an open situation that you cannot fully solve based on prior experience. It's not a rule-based situation, because if it were, it would not, you wouldn't need to think about it. There would not be truly choice. And so this creating these open moments in which seems to be a form of human distinction, and now I make a big jump, and so you were Garry Kasparov. I mean, you still are, but you hadn't basically lost a single game.
Okay, I lost many.
Yeah, well, I'm working my way up towards 97 and Deep Blue. So as I said, my mother pointed at you when you became world champion in 85. Is that right? Yeah. This is the smartest man. And so if thinking or thinking about thinking is one of the highest human distinctions, you were the human, and the machine was the absolute other of the human. But you lost in that moment against Deep Blue, and I'm just curious how you navigated that moment. Not, let me put this in context just a tiny bit more. So I imagine that there is some form of renegotiation happening between you and the machine that is incredibly insightful for the times we live in, like as you just said, having eyes on the screen, thinking for oneself, making decisions. So I'm curious how you...
Yeah, a lot of things I'm going to say now, it's I say, they say. And we are talking about something that happened 28 years ago. Yeah. While I thought about this event as a curse back then, I think now it was a blessing, because I could now present my views about human-machine collaboration without being accused of a bias, because I was the first knowledge worker who had his job threatened by a machine.
Yes.
But because of the...
And you were the knowledge worker. You were basically the proto-human. Yeah.
But it's if we want, again, if we have more time than just a little clip, this advertising clip. So we can go deeper into this issue of human machine competition.
I would love to.
Yeah, and recognizing that what's happened in 1997 was not out of ordinary. The publicity effect was phenomenal. And by the way, I'm very proud just to say that there's a lot of people, and I heard it, or I keep hearing it at my lectures and appearances. A lot of people made decision to join computer science because of this event. Not just IBM, but
Awesome.
moved into the world of computers because it opened a new possibilities. It was really something big.
The Times cover.
Not probably as big as just conquering the space, but still it's something that opened minds of, again,
almost
many,
same scale,
many.
I have to say.
It's so. Let's say I made this sacrifice, in the sake of humanity, so the progress. But why I say it was not ordinary, because we already faced challenges from the computers.
Yes.
Actually, it was an original idea of the founding fathers. When you go back to Alan Turing or Claude Shannon or Norbert Wiener, that's the match against a human, or the game against a human in chess, could be it's a determined factor of machine's intelligence.
Yeah.
When they talked about chess, they talked about, of course, European chess. I mean, not shogi, not other versions of Thai chess or Chinese chess. So this is what we call international version of the game of chess. And since they believe that machine could not win by using brute force, but the available power of calculation, the brute force was so meager back in the late 40s, early 50s. So they were under impression that the only way for machine to succeed would be to somehow duplicate the cognition process. So intelligent machines. That's why this test in their mind was kind of it's a crucial breakthrough. According to Lord Shannon, and I'm not here just to challenge this assumption, so this is the number of legal moves in the game of chess contains 46 zeros. That's a pretty big number.
Yes.
So they're legal moves, and this is when you look at the number of positions, I think it's as you go to something like 120 zeros. Insane numbers that cannot be resolved. The game cannot be resolved. Something that is, as I think they couldn't foresee, is the Moore's law, the dramatic increase of brute force, which could put machines in a very, by founding fathers, awkward situation. It didn't have to be intelligent at all, and Deep Blue was not intelligent. I always say it was as intelligent as the alarm clock.
Yeah.
A very expensive one,
Totally true.
$10 million a piece. It was not intelligence. It didn't have to be intelligent. All machines needed is just to use the brute force and to make fewer mistakes. This is, I think, it's a fundamental issue that a lot of people, both in scientific world and in just, of course, just the ordinary folks, they miss. It's not about solving the problem. It's about improving the performance.
And so
which
intelligence
means making fewer mistakes.
Yes. So help me articulate better how. So you make a juxtaposition between intelligence, solving a problem. Let me add thinking, orienting yourself in thinking, and brute force. Help me articulate this distinction stronger. Like, what is intelligence as opposed to brute force?
Look, again, let's just go first over this is the progress of chess computers, because it was not very significant, but gradually, with some machines doing better and better using the brute force. The Ken Thompsons, the Bell, so it's I think 83, so it already was a decent player, and the first breakthrough was when the program called Deep Thought, which is the prototype of Deep Blue, that's developed by the team at Carnegie Mellon University, beat the first grandmaster in normal tournament chess. Mm-hmm. So it's again, not the top competition, one game, but still, by the end of 80s, we saw machines already presenting a threat to human dominance. I actually faced deep thought in 2 rapid chess games in New York in 1989. In 89, and I won handily both games.
Yes.
So this is and I talked to the team. So it's I was very open. I shared my just opinions. So just gave them some advices. Then we also had, because those were specialized computers, it's massive. This is hardware. Then we also had the development of the engines. And from 92, we had, just chess engines that grew in strengths considerably and very fast. So you had Fritz, and then you later had Junior, but
Deep Fritz, yeah.
Yeah, it started with Fritz. Fritz 1, Fritz 2, Fritz 3. And I remember just playing with them, and so just again, they were really pretty strong. And just to understand that this 1997 was not out of ordinary, you should look at the results of the games that we played with machines before 1997. So in 1994, in Munich, there was the Intel, it's like unofficial World Blitz Championship, sponsored by Intel. It had all the best players in the world. So myself, Vishanand, Vladimir Kramnik, everybody played there. And it had Fritz. I'm not sure which number, whether Fritz 2, Fritz 3. It was not yet Deep Fritz, but this was one of the early versions of Fritz. So it was it was a round robin, followed by the match between the second and the first place.
Yeah.
The first, I tied with machine. Actually, I lost even the game against the machine in preliminary tournament. So then I beat it, I think 4-1 in the final. But machine was already strong enough.
Yes.
So later that year, I lost against another program, I think called Genius, in rapid chess, 25 minutes chess. Then next year I beat machine in the kind of rematch. So, and many other players suffered also this defeat. So machines beating top human players in blitz or rapid chess, 5 minutes, 25 minutes chess, was a commonplace. What remained to be seen, whether machine can conquer, the game by beating strongest player, the world champion, in what we call tournament chess, classical chess, 6 hours, 7 hours game. So that's a long game. Now, today I can tell you that the whole question, the whole notion, was wrong, because it didn't matter. If you have more time, and that's what our assumption, we have more time, we can think, we'll avoid blunders, we're not, pressed by time. Statistically, it doesn't matter. You have more time, machine has more time. So this is the principle that machines could actually do a better job by making fewer mistakes has been already established. And it's amazing that myself or my colleagues or many experts didn't understand that it would be inevitable. So in 1996, I played the first match against the machine. And by the way, if you are talking about the breakthrough moment, the watershed moment, it was not 97, it was 96 in Philadelphia. I won the match 4-2, but I lost game 1. And the fact is that machine could beat sitting world champion, in a tournament chess under normal control, I don't remember, 6 or 7 hours we played. That's a long game. That was the end of the story. The rest would be just, it's like epilogue. So it could take time, but expecting that we could turn the clock backward, it was stupid of us. So I fought back, I won, but in 1997, somehow I was doomed. Now, I still believe that the match was not played under fair rules.
Yeah.
And I can just start counting my complaints. Yeah. One of them was that, again, there was no proper control of the machine. Actually, it doesn't matter. I believe that IBM owed me the rematch, the rubber match. I also understand they declined it because they could not see any business benefits. The IBM shares rose 22% over 12 days of the match. It was a phenomenal success. They knew well that, I made more mistakes in the match, but I could definitely improve my game. And Deep Blue was not strong at the time. I think at the time, if we played a third match, I would have won.
Yeah.
So this is, or it will be, again, they didn't see any interest in that. But I eventually, when my anger, subsided, and it's actually anger was IBM, was myself, was just making mistakes, because I knew I made mistakes. By the way, if you want to look at the quality of these games, that's being trumpeted as phenomenal, Kasparov made this great move, and IBM machine found something. You just take maybe your phone, your app on your phone may not be strong enough, but on your laptop, the engine will tell you exactly that it's in game 5, for instance, it was not a perfect game, but it's just Kasparov missed win, they deep blue missed draw, and Kasparov missed win again. So they'll discover just within 30 seconds to a minute, that's the quality of these games were far from being perfect. So, but after the match, when I could, think, rationally. So without, this is emotional outburst. I just realized the rest was a matter of time. No, I could have played. I played 2 more matches with machines. I played with Deep Fritz and Deep Junior back in 2003. So both matches ended as a draw. 3-3 with Deep Junior, 2-2 with Fritz. So I still could, probably, I could have won these matches. But and by the way, they were stronger than Deep Blue. There was not the same publicity. IBM was not behind it, but these engines, they run on a very powerful hardware also. Not as powerful as Deep Blue, but still, again, quality-wise, the games were much better. But I knew it was just, this is, you may call it historical agony. So I could see the end of the road. That's why in 1998, I already suggested that it was time for us to consider playing what I call advanced chess. Humans plus machine versus human plus machines. So for me, it's the era of competition between humans and machines, which always very attractive. But it's short-lived, because it's when machines get strong enough, that's just to compete with humans, it doesn't last long. So it's eventually they beat humans, again, because machines make fewer mistakes. So I knew back in 1997, 1998, that we would have to look for a new form of cooperations with machines. And chess could be like an ideal lab, a playing field, as it served before to find, this is the way for machines to improve, but also it could be an ideal field to experiment about the decision making that would include both brute force of machine and machine's pattern recognition with humans' creativity, intuition, and guidance.
Did you feel in the late 90s as if machines entered a domain like thought that was something that before only humans had, or not at all?
No, I still viewed them as machines. Because I realized it's about making fewer mistakes.
Yeah.
I didn't think much about this philosophical distinctions. It would come later. But now I believe I'm more, educated on the issue. I'm empowered with other arguments and experiences. But I'm sticking to my position that has been developed back in 98, 99. There are certain elements of the decision-making process that cannot be conquered by the machine. Period. Cannot be. So machines could have larger territory. So it's moving from 90% to 91, 92, 93. So there's so many instances where machines' judgment, machines' suggestions are superior to humans. And we have to probably step on our pride, human pride, and recognize that we belong to the last few decimal places. Mm-hmm. But this is our territory that we have to defend, and I think it's for machines, again, to cross the bridge will be impossible. We still have unique human contributions that can be invaluable for machines, even if they become just even more and more powerful. And we could see that's the shift from the brute force into the more advanced territory, like, you know, when you talk about AlphaZero concept.
Yeah.
But even there, you still have, you know, it's numerous flaws that cannot be overcome by machines without some form of human assistance.
Yeah. Let me walk through this. So, I want to go to AlphaZero, playing against itself, sort of generating its own data and discovering the game possibly differently. But so, AI can supply some, or machines can supply something to the thought process because of the enormous space that they can have, the brute force that they can have, something that's simply beyond human capabilities, and we have to accept that. Simultaneously, in the late 90s, it took energy, calm, wisdom, anger to work through this and arrive at that insight. And so for me, that's a key moment. There's something to be learned there for being alive today. And even though, and that's one of the conclusions that if I understand you well, you arrived at, even though machines can outcompete us, like it's not even worth speaking of a competition in terms of brute force and making fewer mistakes, because they're steady, they're machines in that sense. There are domains where machines just cannot go. And before going to AlphaZero, I'm really curious how you would describe those domains where machines need humans, so to speak, where they cannot go.
The AlphaZero story is one of the best illustrations. But
no, then use it.
Speaking about steady, most of the things done by machines can be somehow explained. But when you look at the machines' games, and we also have to recognize that when you have machines playing other machines, and they play now millions and millions of games, the average length of the machine's game is considerably longer than humans. Mm-hmm. So I don't know exact statistics. I would say that average length of human games is under 50 moves. It's an educated guess. Machines, way more. So this is you have games that could go for 70, 75, 80 moves. But what actually can be observed by looking at these long machine games, and again, I never studied the statistics, but this is my visual impressions. But when you look at these games, then you have two machines playing each other, and you could have the trench war. Mm-hmm. So it's positional, just they move around. So and of course nobody makes a blunder, which is just in human chess. It's just simple fatigue could cause you just a mistake. And all of a sudden, and that's when I say all of a sudden, I mean it. One of the machines is starting suicidal attack. I don't know how to explain it. And I saw it quite often, just to understand it's not accidental. There's something there, it affects the machine's evaluation, because you can understand it. But somehow this is machines are trying to break the balance at any cost. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting, because it's typically, again, this machine should always look for just like bottom line, the best return. And what kind of return it sees by breaking the balance, I don't know. But again, it tells you that there's a certain irrational things there. But where humans can make a difference, and that was the whole concept of advanced chess. It's by the way, it extends from chess to any other territory, whether it's the diagnosis in medicine or in investment or virtually anywhere. It's to understand exactly what this machine needs for this very problem. Because we use the same word, machines, but machines are not the same. It's like in Formula One. They look the same, but it's not the same machine, and that's why the winner is someone who understands his machine. Mm-hmm. He knows how his car in this car. Yes, just react. So this is, and while they're similar, they have engines, they have four wheels, but they're different.
Yeah.
Same as here. Machines are different.
Yeah.
And the different machines have different, okay, let's use word personality, quote unquote.
Yes.
So actually I found it, just back in the 90s, early this century, when just, I was still, active in analyzing this computers and even played them. So for instance, Deep Junior, Deep Fritz. So is it surprising that the engine developed by Germans was more like, say, solid and positional than engine designed by Israelis? That was more aggressive. Yeah. So again, because if you design a machine, you add certain characteristics. At the end of the day, it's a decision-making process.
Yeah.
But what is decision-making process? You have priorities. So this is you have to put a priority. It's a game of numbers. You have to put a priority. Whether you put priority on the king's safety, or on structure in the center, or just will decide how decisions will be made.
Yes.
And that's why it's very natural for Jewish programmers or Israeli programmers to actually to put more emphasis on king safety to make Deep Junior more aggressive, while Germans look for other factors. Again, it's not good nor bad. It's just
even with transformers, right? You train them in batches. There's a stochastic seed. You have the same architecture, the same data set. They have different personalities.
Yes, but
or different logical systems.
Absolutely, because they somehow it's inevitable that some elements of humans behind the program, they will be copied. This is and integrated. Again, it's probably a mysterious way, but it's there.
Yeah.
So. Just going forward, so in time, so when you look at the more sophisticated programs, like let's AlphaZero, which is it was a revolutionary concept, and I was so happy to see that chess, and again the gaming element in chess as well, helped Demis Hassabis and his outstanding team to win a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
So this by applying it to protein
studies. I think that's so right. What they do with AlphaFold is human-machine collaboration, the way that you described it.
Exactly. But what was very important, I think it's as you pointed out, AlphaZero was a concept of basically using the enormous power of Google. So that's when you can use all the energy and the brute force, and within 4 or 5 hours you can make machine playing 60 million games against itself, learning from the scratch, and then coming up with its own system of evaluation, patterns, ideas that are free. Relatively free. It's totally free from human prejudices.
Yeah.
So you would say it's I don't even want to say from the virus of human prejudices, because we developed massive data in the game of chess, and all machines prior to AlphaZero, they relied on this data and used this data just to make their own decisions, and they could just process the data very effectively, but still it was element of human data. AlphaZero was different. So it was amazing to see that AlphaZero totally dominated against chess engines, playing, on the old foundation of human data.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the AlphaZero, it's 60 million games or whatever, and we realize that there's so many ideas that machine found, they actually went against our.
Yes.
Lower prejudice probably doesn't.
There are entire books now about how AlphaZero changed chess, especially the openings. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's in every stage of the game. So this is the many things we actually learn from machine.
And Carlson, I think, profited most from this. The books say.
Correct. Absolutely. But first of all, this is the AlphaZero has not started from the scratch, because we offered it a framework, the game with the rules, and AlphaZero just built its own system based on the rules within this framework. So this is a human framework. And no system is perfect. So the question is that if AlphaZero system has certain flaws, and it does, Again, we don't want to be too specific, but for instance, the difference between bishop and knight. So again, the way that machine evaluates it is probably too high on the bishop side, because in a number of games, in 60 million or whatever number is this, in millions of games, the advantage of bishop is probably it's larger than it's typically just for normal game. So this is because simply you look at the statistics. It's a bottom line. So that's one of the things that that was noticeable, and because of that, in many opening choices are based on this assumption. So I could see it. And if I have to train another machine to play against AlphaZero, I will definitely start looking for these flaws, and I will train the machine. Basically, I will start guiding the machine to actually use it, to benefit from it. Now, the trick question is, how long will it take it from AlphaZero on its own to understand that this is bad, because it started losing game after game.
Yeah.
100,000 games. How many? Because it's 60 million. You just have to start shifting the balance. How long will it take for a human behind AlphaZero to discover it? 1 or 2 games?
Yeah.
So here, this is our role. So you can identify the flaws and basically just make a little tweak.
So let me make a distinction between 2 scenarios. The first scenario is we more or less concede our thinking capacity to the machine and follow the machine's decisions and advice and suggestions. And the second scenario is we understand the machine as adding logical possibilities to our capacity to think, and we learn from it and grow with it. And I do not think these are either-or scenarios. I think that there is a risk that a large chunk of humanity might follow the machine, and only very few think about thinking and take the intellectual advantage of that AI gives to us. You have a different take on that? Let me say, that's just a very rational fear.
I'm not sure that what you described are 2 different scenarios. I would rather say it's 2 variations of one scenario.
Okay.
Which is, again, it's very natural development. Machines are getting more and more sophisticated, and it will be unwise, not to say stupid, to deny the fact.
Yes.
So we have to rely heavier and heavier on machines' assistance, and I think this our role should be determined based, again, on the task and also ability of various humans to collaborate with machines. It's a very interesting process. And it's not, again, simple, here's me, here's machine. Again, different machines, different humans,
yes.
And the cooperation, how they could work together.
I call it co-cogitation.
Absolutely. Ideally, again, in the ideal world, AI should be considered not artificial intelligence, and I was never happy with the artificial, but more like augmented intelligence.
Yeah.
Something that could help us to augment our cognitive process.
Yeah.
So, same way as, for instance, a telescope helped us to augment our vision. And I often bring this example, even a picture of old-fashioned telescope, Galileo telescope,
yeah.
It was, to the audience, as a visual, to explain that the telescope could help us to enhance our vision, but everything depended on the direction. If you put it just too low, you will see nothing but ground and dirt. You have to aim it at the stars. Same as here. So it's about us finding the right way to use this massive brute force, which keeps, just increasing every day, and just to recognize that, again, we just have to rely on this very often. And again, it's stop thinking that machines could be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Driverless car can still make a mistake, and it could lead to, God forbid, to a catastrophe, to loss of human life. Statistically, it's much safer than human driving. Yeah, the problem is, these human mistakes are being accepted, and anything that goes wrong with driverless cars is the front page of the newspaper saying that the robots, blew it up. Again, just recognizing that this is no perfection, but machines could do tons of improvements in our lives, providing we will find A, courage, and B, it's agility to use it for our benefits, and also making sure that which I think is impossible, that the bad actors, those that would like to use the machines to harm us, will not have an upper hand.
Yeah, I hope that too. We want to stay for one more second at the two versions of one scenario. Let me. So I want to go back to the example of young chess players who are not children, but in their teens or early 20s.
No, teens.
Teens.
Yes.
And you ask them, so why is this a bad move? And you go, well, I learned this from the computer, but they cannot necessarily explain the thinking behind it. And so a contrast example would be Magnus Carlsen, who knew how to take his eyes off the computer and had learned from the computer, but learned for his own thinking. And so there is sometimes a version where I think there might be two kinds of people in the future, and we might be in both camps every now and then. Basically, those who are using the computer to improve their thinking, like Magnus does, and those who are ceding some of their capacity to think to the machine. Not that that's necessarily bad in all circumstances, but does that make sense? So one part of me almost wants that we build AI systems not as self-enclosed autonomous tools that do things, but as co-cogitators. I sometimes think AI needs to be built as a relation, as something that we iterate with.
You just said it could be the same person.
Yes.
And I couldn't agree more. The same, call it Magnus Carlsen, a greatest expert on his and her walk of life. So, area of expertise, could actually avoid machines' evil influence in a very specific area, but could not be immune against machines' dominance in many other things that this person, doesn't know how to handle with the same efficiency. Yeah. So, and I see no problem at all. So it's
good.
Again, it's this.
That gives me calm.
It's all about balance and benefits and again, it's trade. I think yes, there are risks, but I look at the benefits. I look at the opportunities that will be presented to us. There's so many great things that we never thought of doing, so now it can be done.
Yeah.
So and then we have these robots now already exploring Mars. It's just think about just unlimited opportunities for us to start studying things that just still beyond our reach. For instance, how much do we know about our planet? So just about world oceans, 3-4%. It's definitely under 5%. So we still do, and that's where we should put our energy.
Yes.
So again, think about benefits. There will be consequences. There will be negatives. It's not win-win-win. So there will be losers. But the moment we look at this problem, just from global perspectives, as humanity, we always win from progress.
So I just for the record, I couldn't agree more. So I'm on the side of let's see what has become possible that wasn't possible before. And let's pursue those possibilities. I mean, one beautiful example for me always is the word climate in English only existed in the plural till the 60s because every place had its climate. And only once we had computers, vast machines that could help us calculate basically that there is only one single climate system, did we begin to understand that there are Earth-based systems, that there are these planetary systems. So push this further. We know nothing about climate change or biogeochemistry or anything about on a planetary scale without AI systems. So this is a massive advantage.
This is again that's excellent point, because when I see these predictions, what was happening now, and it could end with disaster in 2100. Look, we have reliable data. When you just human data, again using AlphaZero. When you look at the human data that has been accumulated, reliable data, so let's say last 400 years, Just this is
Yeah.
it probably even less when you talk
Probably
about climate.
less,
But
yes.
let's give 400. What is 400 years against 3.9 billion years?
Yeah.
What is microsecond?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a nanosecond. So we are talking about just this little period of time. I mean,
Yes.
it's almost irrelevant
Yeah.
for the history or just for the life of our planet. Set aside, the whole solar system, and we're still trying to make predictions. That's where AI can actually help,
Yeah.
because we can start running various combinations and understand better the future.
Yeah.
So that's again, is it good? Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
we have to embrace it and
Yes,
just
yes.
stop
100%.
stop whining, start benefiting.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually think that happens. I mean, in that case, chess is the perfect example
Yeah,
for
it was-
human-machine collaboration. You can apply this to radiology, to cancer research, to protein folding, to planetary scale systems. I think you can even apply it to art to some
Yeah.
degree. But so the reason why I try to paint these two scenarios is that I mentioned this in one of our first conversations, that for me, there has always been an associative link between the experience of thinking about thinking as a practice of freedom, growing the logical spaces we have available, and your political activism. And when I was trying to articulate for myself why that is, I recognized that Imre Kertész was actually important. Because in several of his books, in Fiasco, but also in Dossier K, the biography, autobiography, it's somebody interviewing him, he makes this point that what totalitarian regimes try to do is that they try to de-individualize you. They try to destroy this capacity, this inner capacity to think for yourself and make decisions for yourself. And he also says, slightly contradictory, but therefore, the Qadar regime was the place where I felt the freest on the inside, because there was a clear sense of what freedom is. This might be anyway. I'm mentioning these things because I'm curious if the association I have between thinking and freedom and your political activism holds, or is nonsense. Like, is this just a story I have in my head about you, or is there some truth to it?
Yeah, first of all, the Qadar regime in Hungary was not the worst. It was kind of a window of socialism, so that's why the Hungarians, they were allowed more freedoms. I mean, significantly more than people in the Soviet Union or in China, of course, in North Korea. So, but okay, it was still totalitarian regime. Was some bells and whistles to make the life a little bit more acceptable, because there were still traditions that they couldn't totally eradicate. Now, we're talking now about this is my political activism and my belief in the individual freedom in relations with technology, or
could be. So for me, there are two layers. The first layer is and that's pure speculation on my behalf, is this, in my language, the practice of thinking about thinking and the discovering of these spaces of possibility as a sort of growth of freedom. There is you mentioned competition, and the sort of steady discovery of these new spaces is one part, and the idea that a totalitarian regime basically exists to make this space as small as possible. That's one line of thought. And then another line of thought is, how does AI factor into all of this? Like, both are questions.
Oh, it's the it opens, it's a new chapter in our conversation, and actually probably not chapter, it's a new book.
We have to schedule another conversation.
Yeah, because I think the free world now, this metaphoric West, I think lost its confidence in the ability of a free man, again, free people, just to be politically correct, to advance the world, both on the scientific side and social and political side. And when we look at the modern world, we just simply recognize that the free world, free part of the world, is responsible for almost everything that is happening. But lack of this confidence, made a lot of people, especially young people, to believe that, oh, but look at China, look at Russia, look at so we're no longer dominant. We're no longer, having an edge. No, history tells us that freedom, individual freedom, is the absolute essential component of successful innovations. And yeah, we may have doubts about it, but when you just start looking, just deep down, you still understand that it's everything that we use now somehow has roots to the invention of a free world, of free people, free nations, because we have unique luxury. We can make mistakes. We're not afraid of making mistakes. It's a freedom of making mistakes. It's something that is not known on the other side of this now imaginary Iron Curtain. Because in the countries like former Soviet Union or probably now Russia or China, mistakes, just are, they cause fear, almost a paralysis, because making a mistake could lead to consequences. So they would like to invest. I mean, this is in the central planning system, the socialist system. They would like to invest tons of money to make sure that there's a Google. The problem is they want to know exactly which one out of 1,000 startups would be Google. But the beauty is of the free market, you never know. So I think it's worth actually just revisiting some of the key moments in the history to understand the advantages of the free world, where you can have this like the purest test. For me, actually, the purest test that demonstrated the total superiority of free mind versus unfree mind was World War II. In World War II, so we had two camps, and so I would say 5 major players. I don't want to upset Italians, but it was not a crucial player. Starting just geographically, the Empire of Japan, Soviet Union, the Third Reich, British Empire, and the United States. So when we look at the scientific outcome of the World War II, we can analyze the contribution made by each power for the future of the world. So this what has been designed, invented, and introduced that made significant changes in the future and also helped winning the war. Now, why I say this is the purest example? Because these 5 players controlled probably 95% of all resources. So there was nobody else left. So the whole planet was divided between those 5. You may say that this 100% of intellectual capacity was somehow spread between these 5 powers. Let's start again from the east to the west. Japan, Empire of Japan, enormous power, very creative minds. What is contribution for the future? 0. Absolute 0. No, unless you consider kamikaze is just an invention. But as for great technology, you can talk about the planes and the aircraft carriers, but contribution for the future, 0. Soviet Union, 0. Again, it says 0.
-1.
No. I'm talking about, it says, again, technology, contribution, 0.
Yeah.
Germany, here is this, Germany was actually, the Third Reich was just in between because it still had very powerful traditions of the free world, powerful science. They have not finished the products, but they had 2 major contributions. Werner von Braun, the rockets, and jet engines.
Yeah.
Too late. Actually, this is interesting. Messerschmitt 262 was just late 44, too late to make difference, but jet engine. So 2 major inventions, but not completed. Not yet to make the difference in the war. Britain, Bletchley Park, computers. United States, Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
So when you just look at these contributions, you understand that the free world completely won the battle.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't have to doubt our ability of a free people to always make a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And one of them is just lack of fear. So that's why I think this fear, this irrational fear, is something that stands on the way.
Got it. Yes.
Yeah. And also somehow we are now just this. We are not losing our ground, but we are basically just it's helping the opposition, because the lack of the same oversight, or you talked about Europe, or just regulations, or our attempt to regulate the process, gave an upper hand to Chinese for a very simple reason. When you talk about AI, it's like you may not have the greatest engine, but if you have abundance of fuel, you can run longer distance. So they don't care about privacy. They can use all the data they have, while we have, build up the system of regulation. So it's a very interesting, it's a bunch of actual phenomena that being caused by our overdevelopment. And again, it's still not finding the balance between regulations, which are very important, protecting individuals, but also keeping the freedom of making mistakes, and sometimes we're failing.
I actually think that there is an additional layer, and I think that you provided an example of that additional layer. So we began with this idea that most people think, that there's this clear-cut distinction between either human or machine. And one of the things that emerged in our conversation is, maybe that was once upon a time the case, but now there is in between humans and machine a sort of corridor, human-machine collaboration, that has enabled incredibly powerful and beautiful things. And I do think that there is not enough communication of the positive things that AI systems, for example, have enabled, or the technology has enabled. And so instead of, you only worry about losing something if you do not see the exciting new possibilities. So the number of people who actually, and there are people who say, oh, don't worry, AI will solve all these, will cure all diseases, we will all be rich and beautiful and everything will be awesome. Well, that's not calming. Calming is AlphaFold, for example. Calming is ultimately the story of AlphaZero and chess. Calming is listing the possibilities of ways of doing things now that were not there before.
Listing possibilities doesn't guarantee a success. Again, somehow, just if we are talking about AI and politics now, AI is like, it's like a democracy. It doesn't guarantee you the outcome. Frederick Douglass, you remember, called the Declaration of Independence a promissory note. I mean, something that has not, just offered equal rights to everybody. There was slavery there. The women actually first time voted in this country back in 1920. So it took time, but it was a solid foundation.
Yeah.
So I think AI offers opportunities.
Yes.
It's these how we manage these opportunities. That's another story.
Yeah, but we have to tell the positive story so that the fear goes away.
It's the chicken and egg. Yeah. So
again,
we need success to kill fears, but we have to eliminate fear or to control fear. So before we get successful. So and by the way, it's just you've used both fear. I was getting, not angry, but annoyed when they say that he or she, this person is fearless. There are no fearless people, I believe. The only difference is how can you manage your fear. Yeah. So yes, do we have to fear? Absolutely, we have to fear. Do we have to panic about it? Do we have to stop developing it? No. So it's a process that could bring us, some setbacks on the way forward, but. Think of humanity. This is the way to go deep underwater, to go, in outer space, to develop humanity, and it's the only way forward. Yeah. So, is it risky? Absolutely. Yeah. There will be casualties on the way. Absolutely. So, should we start thinking about the casualties now? Absolutely not. Yeah. Because you cannot predict what casualties will happen, and that's why the attempts of bureaucracy now say, "Oh, we have to regulate it." I mean, forget about regulations. There's regulations. There's a good one. Just you have a decent idea, or just a clear vision what to expect. This is again, it's so enormous, it's so big, and again, it's a way for us into the future.
I agree with this entirely. I think I stay on a simpler level in my thinking, and that is, if you're worried, doesn't matter which segment of society you live, about the AI taking away your job, and you hear Garry Kasparov talk about human-machine collaboration, then a bleak horizon opens up into a possibility. You can do something with the machine. Yes, jobs will be lost. I don't want to lie to you. Jobs will be lost. But look, this is what has become possible. How will it play out? Nobody knows. It's impossible. But what we do know is, unless we go there, with in the face of fear, having the courage, the conviction that it can go forward.
But also the answer is just to complement what you just said is the more sophisticated machines make it easier to work with them.
Yeah.
Which means people, as dumb as myself, because I'm turning 62 now. So this is and not as sophisticated as my kids, for instance. We have a chance. So again, it's because machines are easier to operate. They're friendly now. So that's why advantages of AI. So this is they make this the interface, so more easier to handle. So again, the distance between this collaboration is shorter now because again, you don't need to be just to be a computer expert. You don't need a special education from MIT or Berkeley. So you can actually learn something and find a way because all people have talent, and machines could actually amplify. It can just add extra opportunity. You don't. I already talked about people, just handicapped people, but even just ordinary people. So maybe you have its hidden talent. That is, while you're just busy now, just doing your 9 to 5 routine, you never discover. Try.
Yeah, I'm so glad we have on record that Garry said somebody as dumb as him. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Okay.
I'm really.
To be continued. Yes.